Hello, I'm Kate. Today in the Gospel of John, we are gonna read Jesus cleans the temple. Let's open John chapter 2, starting from verse 13. It was nearly time for the Jewish Passover celebration, so Jesus went to Jerusalem. Passover is one of the biggest celebrations in the Jewish culture. It was celebrated when they exit Egypt. Moses went to Pharaoh to say, "Let my people go." But Pharaoh didn't want to do that. That angers God. So God put 10 plagues over Egypt. At the same time, he saved Israel. This story is before the last plague. Let's read from Exodus chapter 12. While the Israelites were still in the land of Egypt, the Lord gave the following instructions to Moses and Aaron. From now on, this month will be the first month of the year for you. Announce to the whole community of Israel that on the 10th day of this month, each family must choose a lamb or a young goat or a sacrifice, one animal for each household. If a family is too small to eat a whole animal, let them share with another family in the neighborhood. Divide the animal according to the size of each family and how much they can eat. The animal you select must be a 1-year-old male, either a sheep or a goat, with no defects. Take special care of this chosen animal until the evening of the 14th day of this first month. Then the whole assembly of the community of Israel must slaughter their lamb or young goat at twilight. They are to take some of the blood and smear it on the sides and top of the door frames of the household where they eat the animal. That same night, they must roast the meat over a fire and eat it along with bitter salad greens and bread made without yeast. Do not eat any of the meat raw or boiled in water. The whole animal, including the head, legs, and internal organs, must be roasted over a fire. Do not leave any of it until the next morning. Burn whatever is not eaten before morning. These are your instructions for eating this meal. Be fully dressed, wear your sandals, and carry your walking stick in your hand. Eat the meal with urgency, for this is the Lord's Passover. On that night, I will pass through the land of Egypt and strike down every firstborn son and firstborn male animal in the land of Egypt. I will execute judgment against all the gods of Egypt, for I am the Lord. But the blood on your doorposts will serve as a sign, marking the houses where you are staying. When I see the blood, I will pass over you. This plague of death will not touch you when I strike the land of Egypt. This is the day to remember. Each year from the generation to generation, you must celebrate it as a special festival to the Lord. This is a law for all time. So here we can see the 10th plague. Any male, firstborn male from human to animals will die the next morning, except for the house with the blood on its doorframe. So the Lord said, slaughter the lamb and use the blood to make a mark on the doorframe. And if he sees that mark on the doorframe, either an Israelite or any Gentiles living in the house will be safe. And that's what our Lord Jesus did for us. He was slaughtered and he used his blood to cover us so we can be safe. What a beautiful sacrifice he did for us. Let's continue to go back to John chapter 2. The Passover is also a timestamp for us to understand the Bible. So we counted 3 Passover over all the Gospels, so we know Jesus was on earth for about 3 years in his mission. And verse 13, in the temple area, he saw merchants selling cattle, sheep, and doves for sacrifice. He also saw dealers at tables exchanging foreign money. Jesus made a whip from some ropes and chased them all out of the temple. He drove out the sheep and cattle, scattered the money changers' coins over the floor, and turned over their tables. Then going over to the people who sold doves, he told them, "Get these things out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a marketplace." Then his disciples remembered this prophecy from the scriptures. passion for God's house will consume me. When I read these, it comes to a memory that when I was a little child, I didn't believe in Buddhism, because when I went to the temples, there are merchants selling all sort of stuff. And I was thinking, how could you do that in God's temple? It should be pure and holy. So when I read this, that's when I believed that the Bible is the truth. This is the truth. So that really convicts me. And also it reminds me it's not just all the outward appearance. Our body is the temple. Do we have anything inside us that's not pure and holy? Pastor Bill Johnson said, anything that takes my eyes away from God is a sin. It's not good. We need to clear that out. So we need to cleanse this temple here to make sure it's pure and holy. And let's continue to read. Verse 18. But the Jewish leaders demanded, what are you doing? If God gave you authority to do this, show us a miraculous sign to prove it. All right, Jesus replied, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. What? They exclaimed. It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you can rebuild it in 3 days. But when Jesus said this temple, he means his own body after he was raised from the dead. His disciples remember he had said this, and they believed both the scriptures and what Jesus had said. Why 3 days? Because in the Jewish culture, they believe our soul will leave our body on the 3rd day after death, and that's the true death. So before the 3rd day, you could wake up anytime. So that's why Jesus had to wait until the 3rd day. So that is a sign of resurrection. We can also see another example in the Bible. Let's open John 11 as Jesus raised Lazarus. I'm just gonna skim through a few verses. So from verse 4, but when Jesus heard about it, he said, Lazarus' sickness will not end in death. Now it happened for the glory of God, so that the Son of God will receive glory from this. So although Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, he stayed where he was for the next 2 days. Finally, he said to his disciples, let's go back to Judea. So here we can see he could have gone earlier, but he waited so the sign can be proven to the disciples. So then we can see from verse 15, and for your sakes, I'm glad I wasn't there, and now you will really believe. Come, let's go see him. And verse 17, it says, when Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in his grave for 4 days. So that's a good sign that he's truly dead in the Jewish standard. And we can skim through verse 23. Jesus told her, your brother will rise again. Yes, Martha said, he will rise when everyone else rises at the last day. Jesus told her, I am the resurrection and life. Anyone who believes in me will live, even after dying. Everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never ever die. Do you believe this, Martha? Yes, Lord, she told him. I have always believed you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who has come into the world from God. Then she returned to Mary. She called Mary aside from the mourners and told her, the teacher is here and wants to see you. So Mary immediately went to him. And let's skim through verse 33. When Jesus saw her weeping and saw the other people wailing with her, a deep anger welled up within him, and he was deeply troubled. Where have you put him? He asked them. They told him, Lord, come and see. Then Jesus wept. The people who were standing nearby said, see how much he loved him. But some said, this man healed a blind man. Couldn't he have kept Lazarus from dying? Jesus was still angry as he arrived at the tomb. A cave with a stone rolled across its entrance. Roll the stone aside, Jesus told them. But Martha The dead man's sister protested, "Lord, he has been dead for 4 days. The smell will be terrible." Jesus responded, "Didn't I tell you that you will see God's glory if you believe?" So they rolled the stone aside. Then Jesus looked up to heaven and said, "Father, thank you for hearing me. You always hear me, but I said it out loud for the sake of all these people standing here, so that they will believe you sent me." Then Jesus shouted, "Lazarus, come out." And the dead man came out, his hands and feet bound in grave clothes, his face wrapped in headcloth. Jesus told them, "Unwrap him and let him go." So that's another example that Jesus truly raised Lazarus from death. And let's come back to verse 23. Because of the miraculous signs Jesus did in Jerusalem at the Passover celebration, many began to trust in him. But Jesus didn't trust them because he knew human nature. No one needed to tell him what mankind is really like. Wow, it's very deep here. What does it mean? David Paulson put it this way: you can believe that I'm standing in front of you, but if I ask you to give me all your possession, all your money, all your assets to me to manage it for you, do you have that trust in me? So here we can see there's a difference between I believe Jesus is the Lord and I put all my possession, including my own life, to Jesus. I entrusted Jesus to manage over me, over everything I own. So this story truly tells us that we need to cleanse this temple to make sure there's nothing impure, nothing unholy, to make sure it's really clean. And we also need to put our trust in Jesus, fully trust. Let him possess us. Let him reign over us. So that's it for today.